Let's do it. Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Studio Live today. This is the final countdown. Yes, we are nearly there. Adjust the volume. We are nearly there with Songtember. This is the final mix of my Songtember song, which is this one right here that's still playing. So in this video, I'm going to do a few things here. We're going to listen to the mix, and I'm going to talk you through what I do at this point in the piece. So what I do at this stage where I'm pretty happy with it. So I'll let you know, last night I did a bunch of mixing. I then went away and listened to it. I took a break. I came back. I listened to it again. I listened on my Bluetooth speaker. I listened on my earbuds. I listened on my monitor speakers. And I listened on my HD 280 Pros. And I basically just tried to find the balance. Right now it's about balancing, yeah? So I'd turn the bass up a bit too much, and then I'd go play them on like a system that has subwoofer, and I'd be like, oh, I've destroyed it. And then I'll come back and turn it down a bit, and I'll be like, oh, now on the in-ear monitors it sounds like terrible and tinny. So this is the balancing act that is this final mixing process before we hit the mastering process. So this is where we're at. We will dive in just a few moments, and I'm also going to take you back to the start where we first created this song, and we'll take a listen to where it was on about the 3rd of September, the very first version, and now, as you'll see here in GarageBand, we are on version 14. So it's been a long ride already, and yeah, we'll finish up this mix in the next day, get it mastered, get it released. Thank you to Jade, who has thrown the link to the playlist. If you're just catching up, if you're like, what is Songtember? Who is Pete Johns? Well, Songtember is our Song in a Month challenge we've been working on for the last month, and it is time. We are at the end, and we're about to finish off this mix. I'm doing a hard rock song, which I didn't really intend to do to start with, but that's how it all worked out. Let's go back up to the top here and say good day to the folks who are here live. Jade, we've said hello to. Gary Hubbs at work, sadly. I got one ear on here and another on the footsteps behind me. Hello, Melissa. Good to see you. Stu Cash is here. We got Mr. Josh Gates in the house. Desolate Mornings here. We got Fallen. We got Benedict Stewart. Hello to you. Andy Goldsby in the house. Good day to Pat. And Tom Rochelle, hello to you. Who have I missed? Hello, Ohayus, hello to you. Jake Shepherd, g'day. Says late here in the UK, so we'll check in tomorrow. Have fun. Yeah, absolutely. It is. I appreciate that it's 10 o'clock on a school night in the UK and in parts of Europe. So apologies for that. Subbeat, do you rap? Yeah, only at Christmas time, as Stu says. I don't know if that's related to that question, but I rap sometimes. Not well. I'm not a good rap singer. Hello to Amarasi, Healing Heart, John Hogle. We got everybody in the house. We better get cracking, hey, and start actually looking at this mix. So, as I said, what we're going to do is go back to the start. So, the way that I work, and here in GarageBand, and I recommend you do something similar depending what platform you're using, but you'll notice that when I'm working on a song, it starts here, and then every time I do a major update, I duplicate the project and I get a new version number right up to last night's mix, which is version 14, which is the very latest one. And that just gives me the ability that if I completely cock it up, that I can go back to the previous mix and all is not lost. Speaking of mix, yeah, I'm using Restream again here today. So please let me know if there's any issues with audio. It does look like I'm coming in a little bit low. So if I need to turn my audio up, so that you can hear me better, please let me know. I'm just going to check my advanced settings. Yep, that's all looking good. We're all good in the hood. Hello to a few folks who've dropped in late. Hello to Gregory from NYC. Good luck with the mix. Thank you, my friend. I'll need it. And hello to Gino and to Scott, who've snuck in just in the last few minutes. So, yeah, let's go right back to the start. So when I started to work on this song, for those that have been following all the way along, you remember this. I originally started with a guitar riff, a bass riff, a drummer drums before Jade Starr stepped in and did the drums, and then my original vocals, which were just some mumbling vocals. So let's listen firstly to what it sounded like, and then we can. It's always fun to compare where have we gone from and to, and what is happening with it. So let's hit play on this one from way back on about the 3rd of September, and turn the volume up. So it definitely resembles where we're at now. Let's come and see what the chorus is like, because I think, had I even written the chorus at this stage? Let's take a listen. It's in your beginning, running if you got there. It's in your beginning, ready on now. So yeah, it vaguely resembles where we're at now, but again, it's fun to see where you've come from, and that's the other reason version control is good, not just for making sure you don't lose your stuff, but that you can come back here. Now you notice here on version 4 there's this zip file. This is the point where I zipped it up and sent it to Jade. She added in the drums, which are still the drums on there now. I then went through recording, mixing, automating, doing all the things, and then here we are with what is close to my final mix here. So you can see I've got my vocals. If you've missed all the other videos, by the way, check the playlist. I won't go into every detail here because we only got 1 hour for this final mix video. So I did 4 takes of vocals, and then I comped them down onto one vocal track here. I've then got this one here, which I'm using as an effects vocal track for this one section where I want this distorted, delayed vocal. You'll hear that in a moment. I've got a double vocal down here. My mouse is being dodged today. A double vocal down here. We've then got my guitars. You can see I've automated the guitars only to fade them out, because what I've actually done is I've used a bit of clip gain. So if you don't know about clip gain in GarageBand, it's a handy little way to change the volume of different sections. Hang on, why don't I give us a bit, I'll embiggen that so you can actually see what's going on here. So the clip gain there, so I've just reduced where I've got louder volumes, I reduced the whole section rather than having to use a lot of automation. It tends to just leave it a bit cleaner, but I have faded out the end of those guitars. We then got our fast version of those guitars, also with the fade out there at the end. Our center guitar at the end there, and these lead guitar parts that I'm actually really liking. I'm a little bit proud of these lead guitar bits. I'm not a lead guitarist by any stretch, but the lead guitar sounds pretty cool. This is that ending guitar there. These are the fast drums and the fast cymbal crashes at the end, which you'll see in a minute. We'll go through more detail. All of Jade's drums that we have here that I have meticulously mixed and used a couple of tricks, courtesy of Gary Hubs, to make these drums really pop, and I'll talk about them after we've played the whole song. The bass here, which was a combination of my bass and Jade's bass, because Jade did a bit of a bass idea and I thought that sounded cool. And then we've got just a few very subtle pads that are sitting down the bottom here, which I haven't really pulled up in the mix. Every time I pulled them up, they sounded distracting, so I've left them as a little bit of an element in there at the bottom of the mix. So I have used all 32 tracks. Very rarely in GarageBand do I get to the point where I can't add a new track because I've used them all, and I think maybe I've deleted a couple. Yeah, I think I've got up to about 30 now because I deleted a couple that I didn't need. Alrighty, why don't we, here's what we're going to do. So what I do at this point is I will take a full listen. I'm not going to touch any controls here, apart from I'm going to open up a notepad in here behind, and I'm going to take notes. And if you wish to, feel free to take notes as well and put those in the chat here. And what we're then going to do is actually go through the song again. So I'm going to listen in every time I hear something that I want to go back to and take a look at and maybe tweak or change. I'm going to note it down. So we're going to listen to the whole song. It's about 4 minutes long, and I'm going to listen as well. I'll turn my mic volume down, and then anything that stands out to you or any suggestions you have. Now, keep in mind, we're not making wholesale changes. If you say, Pete, it would be awesome to have a violin part in there, or it would be awesome if you added in some glockenspiel, it's probably not going to happen. We're too late. So it's really just, hey, how about you EQ that vocal down in this area, or hey, how about you turn up that guitar in this section? So if you want to help me let's do it, shall we? Let's listen in, and you'll see my process here. So what we're doing from here, we'll listen to the song, and then I'll come back and we'll have a chat. So we'll turn the volume, make sure everything's balanced, hit play, and here it is, the current, almost final mix of my song called New Beginning. And I'll jump around and try and show you some settings as we go as well, so you can see those. Let's do it. There it is. You are among the first folks to hear the full version of the song here, and you heard it live. So let me know what you thought. I'll take us through all of the details here, just so in case you're wondering how it was mixed and some of the methods used and some of the reasoning behind what I've put into this mix. I will let you know in a moment, but I'll jump over to the chat and see if anyone has anything. I only made one note because I was so busy. I've overheard this now. I was so busy playing around with it myself during the mix. So what I'm going to do is tap out here, save out. So 14 is my mix that I'm pretty darn happy with. If I ruin everything today, just overthinking it and overdoing it, I'm just going to grab mix 14 and release it, master it and release it. So we're going to select it. We're going to duplicate it so that we're going to go into mix 15. And this is what we can play with now. So we'll open that one back up. We're here in mix 15. Let's come back up here. We'll see. Where did I actually start it? There it was. Hello Benjamin, good to have you here. He's a Soul Rack M7. Nice clicky kicks. Yeah, I'll talk about the kicks in a moment. I think that they really cut through. And yeah, I also can't wait to hear Jade's EP. Hello to Pat. Thank you, my friend. Langston Reese is here. Those kicks are pretty clicky. Yeah, let me know if they're the right amount of clicky or too clicky, because I'm learning. I'm learning this stuff. Jade says love the lead guitar. Gary Hubbs, the lead is smooth. Desolate sounding pretty good. Gary Hubbs, yes. Scott, sounding great. Eddie Goldsmith likes it. Thank you. Lots of duality in that. It does take you on a bit of a journey. That was kind of the point, I think, here. Some fire from Jade. Josh Gates said sounds great. John says great. I'm happy because no one's telling me that anything is sticking out to them. So this is a good thing. Thank you, Desolate. Solrak, thank you, my friend. John says, I think you have a pretty good idea already. I think I have a pretty good, but what's the song lyrics about? Yeah, I'll talk about the song lyrics in a sec. Yeah, and I'll take you through the rest of the mix. Evening to Mike Holmes, always good to see you in the house, Mike. And KR USA, thank you. Thanks for all your help. You're welcome. Very cool. Benedict says, great lead guitar, vocals sounded awesome. Cool. And Desolate says, right amount of clicky in the kick drum. Nice one. Yeah, perfect amount of clicky. They do cut through nicely. Excellent. Healing Heart says, I don't feel qualified to make any suggestions. I like how it alternated. Well, that's cool. And again, it's really just, at this point, what I'm looking for is anything sticking out? Is anything like really poking out in the mix? Because that's what I want to address at this point. It's diminishing returns at this point, yeah. So that's why I said I'm not making wholesale changes. The song is what it is, but if there's anything where it's like, okay, that one note there or that one line there may just need to be automated down. But I have spent quite a bit of time, as you've seen here, adjusting it to date. So the lyrics. Yeah, let me just bring up the lyrics here. Where's my song? Timber songwriting. And we'll talk through these just briefly for those that are kind of joining late. Should be able to slide these over onto my screen. Yep, here we go. So yeah, we wrote these I wrote the first verse, and then I had a video where I kind of came and got some help from the folks here, and we kind of wrote them together. So yeah, hesitation, fear of change have paralyzed you, made you doubt yourself. So the song, the message I wanted to get through was that it's called New Beginning. That's pretty much what it's going to be called. And it's about the fact that the hesitation and fear of change is what stops people from taking on something new, getting out of their comfort zone and doing something that's sort of going to stretch them. Then cultivation of new ideas can make a difference to you and those you care about. So that's saying that we need you to get out of your comfort zone. So if it's something like songwriting, we need you to write songs, because you may write a song that has an idea in it that triggers someone else, that makes them think about something that actually has a benefit. So, I know that's getting a bit deep next level, but that's what I'm saying, is that we're not going to cultivate new ideas by thinking the same way we've been thinking forever. So that's where I wanted to get with that one. There's a new beginning, ready if you want it. All you got to do is open up your mind. So that's just saying it's actually not that hard. We overstate how hard it is. All you got to do is go in with an open mind, and there is a new beginning. You can change things. You have the control and the influence over your own life, so you can do that. Hesitation, going nowhere fast. You will never break the chains that hold you back. So yeah, if you're hesitating, you'll never break the chains that hold you back if you don't just go for it. Go for the new beginning. And motivation to be yourself should be the answer that lets you live your life. So again, just be being yourself, being true to yourself, doing things that you want to do is the answer that is going to let you lead your life and do the things you want to do without worrying about what other people think and what other people are going to say. And then, it just gets a little bit aggressive here with the watch out is coming for you, ready or not, full bore. And that's basically saying that the other part of change is that sometimes it's inevitable and sometimes you just have to go with the flow because, you're not going to have a choice. So you might as well embrace it. And then when you feel you're not prepared for what's coming next, you should know we all relate. No one ever sees it coming. It's a new beginning. And then it just sort of goes and rehashes a bunch of the lyrics. So it's a pretty simple premise. But yeah, it's one that I thought was important. I've had to grapple with this in the past, and I just wanted to say, hey, we've all been there. We've all been through these phases where you want to go into a new beginning, but it's scary. It is. It's daunting when you're doing something new. Righty dokie, let's continue on, and I'll go through some of the techniques I've used here because hopefully that's what many of you may actually be here for. You may be saying, "That's nice, Pete. Thanks for doing a song, but you're an education channel. How about you give us some education?" So let's go through track by track, and I'll just break down what I've done in this mix and why. So, the vocals first of all. So yes, I comped the vocals, and you can check out my comping video. Just search Pete Johns comp vocal, and you'll find that one. Got these 4 takes. Comping is just compiling them down into here. I've then cut out the bits in between, so you don't need to hear me breathing in the bits where there's no vocal. So I've done some editing there just to trim the vocals down. So that's all in place. And then we've got the vocal soloed here. What we've added in is I actually used the radio ready in the end. I've got the compressor on here at 4.2 ratio, the threshold in there. I've got my overdrive. So I've got quite a bit of drive on this vocal. It was a little bit thin, so I wanted to give it some guts and bring that in there. In fact, why don't we? I've got the vocal soloed. I don't know. I just got to remember what I don't have on. I don't have stereo delay on. So I'll turn off all of the effects that I've added in here, and then this is what the vocal sounds like, and we'll add in each one as we go. So let's take a listen. Made you doubt yourself. So it's sounding like a bit thin there. So with the drive on there, it gives it a bit more of a gravel. Made you doubt yourself. So I highly recommend overdrive on a vocal. It really gives it that gravelly kind of sound. The compressor is going to bring the volume up so it's going to level it, but bring the volume up. I could just turn the volume up, but what the compressor does is it actually sort of pushes it down, and then you bring the whole lot back up. So the compression settings here can make it like this. Made you doubt yourself. And you can hear there that by itself, it sounds a bit distorted-y, like it doesn't sound right. And this is why don't mix, don't solo things when you're mixing it. And it'll end up not sounding the way you want it. I've then just got the standard tape delay, which sounded okay. That does this. Made you doubt yourself. I've added some additional delay, so I've layered up the delays here. I've put the DLO1 just very subtly, just 10% wet in here, which gives me this additional quarter note delay. Made you doubt yourself. And then the EQ is the last pièce de résistance, which I've added here. And I've just used a visual EQ. The one thing you might notice about this mix is I've only used stock and free plugins. So I wanted to make sure that this was not something that required a bunch of plugins, because as you've probably known from previous years, I'll be giving you this project. I'll be allowing you to download this project, and I wanted to make sure it was accessible, that anyone, as you just downloaded the few free plugins that I've used on it, that anyone can have it. So here's what I've done here. I've got a cut down here in the bottom. I've cut out my nasally 1K frequency, and I've boosted the treble up here. The reason I've done this treble boost is that I actually used a dynamic mic, and unlike my condenser mics, it gave it a bit of a dark feel, which I wanted it to be dark, but it just wasn't quite cutting through the high end enough. So I did give it a little treble boost up the top there. So all in all, it sounds like made you doubt yourself. It just makes it nice and clear and cuts through the mix, in my opinion. So that is what I did with vocals on the track, and I think the vocals came out reasonably okay. Let's see. We've got some notes here, which is good. Amaracia says, when it changed to the hard part the first time, the vocals didn't mix perfectly to my ears, but I'm not entirely sure. And then Healing Heart said there was the vocals towards the end, but before the really fast bit that might have benefited from something, but I don't know what effect it could be called and how to pinpoint where it was. Yeah. So yeah, I'll take a look at that, because yeah, I'm kind of the same. When it got loud, it might just be because I used actually, that's the other thing. We'll show you this real quick, because I used some doubling of vocals, and maybe what I need to do is turn up the doubled of the vocal when we get to some of these sections, because the first doubled vocal comes in down here where I've got my first chorus. I'll spend a bit of time on vocals because it's what people tend to grapple with the most. So I've got the two vocals here, and they do this. There's a new beginning, ready if you want it. All you gotta do is open up your mind. So we bring the two vocals together. It just fullens up. That's not a word. It just makes the mix a little fuller. So when we play it back, there's a new beginning, ready if you want it. And then when we get down to this section with the watch outs and stuff, so the has the double on there. So we got the Watch out. It's coming for you. Ready or not. Full bore. When you feel. So I don't know if it's that part there that you think is it's a deliberate thing that I've actually changed it up there, but maybe I just need to tweak that and play with that a little bit. It might be a little bit too echoey. I've tried to make it funky and put a delay effect here that's using the ping-pong delay that's going a quarter note left and right, which is what you're hearing in there. If I just solo this, you'll hear it. Watch out! It's coming for you. Yeah. Yeah, no, not that part. Okay, we'll find the part. Don't worry, we got time. Well, we don't, but that's okay. We've got some time to go through this here today. So then we come into the next part where it's going to again have the doubled vocal. If we solo these, we've got the vocal on the second. When you feel you're not prepared for what's coming next, you should know. So maybe that's maybe we just need a little bit less on the delay. And Mike's asked a good question here, which is, why would you lay a delay? Why would you use more than one delay? It's really just a personal thing. Like I tend to, you can see here, I've got the delay here, the master echo and reverb. I've then also got some tape delay and the DLO1. It just gives you, every different delay has a slightly different quality to the sound. And I just find that sometimes putting some, like sometimes you can make an absolute mess. And maybe I've done a little bit too much on this. I need to pull back on it. It's something that I'll listen throughout the day. And if I do need to, I will. But layering up two different reverbs, layering up two different delays, even two different compressors can actually give you a slightly different sound, because they'll all process the sound slightly differently. And sometimes a delay into a delay can give you this cool double delay sound that I tend to like. So that's my reasoning behind it anyway. Maybe totally wrong, but you know what? Can't be wrong. There is no wrong in music. It's all just what works for you. G'day, Jack Smith. Good to see you here. Who else did I see in for action? Hello there. Mike says it does sound good in the mix though. When you solo it, it sounds a lot, but in the mix it sounds right. And that's the thing. You do have to be careful. Sometimes you'll solo something and it will sound terrible. Have you ever soloed a bass? In fact, let's solo a bass. Let's come down to the bass because we need to talk about this anyway. Like bass tracks just sound horrible when they're soloed. My mouse is not playing nicely today. So if we solo the bass, they kind of sound crunchy and clicky and yeah. So it's not a great sound, right? But when you bring it in the mix, you will never break the. So yeah, so the bass is pretty simple here. I use one of the standard bass amps here, which is just this flip top amp, the nice definition bass, which I think I used because Jade used it when she recorded her test track. And then if in terms of processing, there's very little on here. I don't tend to touch the bass much. We've got some compression on there just to flatten it out a little bit, just some light compression, 2.8:1 ratio, and got the threshold down at -30. And that just sort of just brings it up into the mix. So as opposed to bringing the volume up, compression is a better volume control. Remember, compression and EQ are just volume controls, but slightly different. So difference between compression and volume is that compression will bring everything down first, it'll compress your peaks, the top end, and then you use your makeup gain to bring it back up again. So volume just brings everything up, which means your peaks are going to poke up through the roof, right? Imagine your roof there, and you've got the peaks, and they're nearly up there. Your volume is going to push the peaks through the roof. Your compression will instead flatten those peaks and then bring everything up. So you're not going to clip, you're not going to distort, but you're going to get the benefit of having that additional gain and volume in your mix. So keep that in mind. Yeah, and Jade says it does. It recreates a nice DI sound. Yeah, it's a nice bass sound. I agree. I tend to use the flip top more than any when it comes to that. Mike says the mix does sound pretty good. I'm going to try it with headphones. Yeah, absolutely. Let me know. Because I'll be mixing this through the day. So if you have other suggestions, you can come back and leave comments on this video and let me know. Jade says always layer up 2 compressors on vocals. Yeah. And Tom says, interesting thing I found about delays, it seems way too much soloed, but in the mix you barely notice it. Yeah, exactly. Because what those delay bits are doing, they're like a pad. Think of them like a pad, because the delay is basically just putting something in that frequency range while everything else is going. So the main benefit of a delay is that it means that it's not just like vocal stop. It's like blah, la, 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 la. So while your other guitars and things are playing, you're benefiting from having a little bit of that sound ramping off. Anyway, let's continue on. So that's our bass. Now our guitars, I have shown these a few times, so I'll only show these really quickly. We've got 2 guitars, one left, one right. I played one way louder than the other, which is why you see we got this going on here, the 2. So here's our left guitar that comes in. We'll go right back to the start. Here's our left guitar. Nice distant distortion. Here's our right. So 2 very different tones, but hopefully complementary tones that we have here. My iTunes has popped up and wants to install. Don't remember the last time I used iTunes. So on the left, again, I've shown this in previous videos. I'm just using the standard amp sim here in GarageBand, the brownstone with the H drive treble boost on there. We've got the noise gate and we've got a little EQ here just to pull it down a little bit here in the mids and the bass and give it a little bit of an additional treble boost to make it sound nice and bright, to contrast with our other guitar, which is slightly different. So if we come to the other guitar, you can see here we've got the tone bridge this time around. We're using that glorified G from Pearl Jam with the tone bridge pedal there, and then the visual EQ here. I'm doing the opposite. I'm boosting it around those mids and pulling it off at the top here to get some complementary guitar EQ, so that together they hopefully will complement each other, sound different enough, but work well together like this. Yeah, so the combination there of the tone bridge on the right with the Pearl Jam tone and the brownstone on the left, yeah, I think it really just, it comes together nicely. And in the mix, it's got that, it's very much a Pearl Jam sound. Well, that's what I was going for anyway. The Stone Gossard and Mike McCready, sort of complementary, similar but different on the left and the right, to give us a little bit of a, not a wall of guitars, but a little a retaining wall of guitars. How about that? Oh, no. Jack says, I couldn't get my tone bridge to sound right. Is there a certain amp or mic to put that layer on? So the thing with tone bridge is always make sure you start with a clean. So don't have anything else on your track. So make sure you've got a 100% clean track to start with. Don't ever put it on a guitar amp track, and don't put it on a track that's already got a bunch of processing like any of your lead vocal or your guitar sounds. So use the fun clean setting and then layer tone bridge on that, and then it should sound delightful. So that would be my tip on that one. So there's your guitars. The fast guitars at the end do kind of the same thing. So they've got the same kind of settings here, the tone bridge on the right and the brownstone on the left. They're played much louder, but I've kind of left them louder because I want that to just be this massive, like loud, destructive festival of noise at the end there. So when they come in at the end, they sound like this.
Hesitation, going nowhere fast. You will never break the chains or feel the pain.
It's a good sign that when I start playing it, I forget that I'm doing a mixing tutorial and I just want to keep like headbanging to my own song. Sounds conceited, but if you don't rock out to your own tunes, no one else will. So if you don't enjoy listening to your songs, then that's a bad sign. Let's talk lead guitar, because I'm actually a little bit proud. I didn't do much on this lead guitar tone, but in the last one, I got a bunch of folks, I think Tom was one, other folks said, turn up that lead guitar. We need that lead guitar to cut through this mix. And I said, yep, okay, I'm there, I'm doing it. So originally this lead guitar wasn't really cutting through, but if we listen to when it first comes in, it really does push through the mix. Let's take a listen.
Open up your mind.
And I did originally play around with some different tones here, but you know what? I kind of came back to using the exact same tone here. Because I wanted that Pearl Jam's tone, I've got the glorified G Pearl Jam tone. Although it's got the pedal there. I'm wondering if it changed, but it just didn't change the name. Maybe it did actually change to the even flow tone. Because I know I experimented with the even flow tone. Hopefully that'll work if I give this to other people. It'll play the right tone. The other thing with tone bridge is play around with the effect and the volume. Sometimes the default values there are really bad. I would turn them both down quite a bit and then just gently ease them back up if you're using tone bridge. That can work a lot better for you. So yeah, the key thing I did with this, as you notice here, no compression, no EQ, didn't touch anything else on here, just the tone bridge, but this is the secret sauce. I love this plugin, the DLO1. I probably overused it in this track, but I think it works for this sort of track. So you can see here, I've got this ping-pong delay synced with the left and right, synced to a quarter note, and I've got it at 66% feedback and 38% wet. So this is really giving it a whole bunch. So if we listen to the tone without the delay, and we'll solo it, it sounds like this. Still good, yeah, but I think that the secret sauce on this one is the DLO1, because listen to this ping pong that happens now with the delay. And the one thing I did have to do is that last beautiful sustained note that I have there, it was too loud going into the mix, so I did have to ramp that down. And if you saw the video I released yesterday on automation, guitar automation, this is something that's super crucial, because your nice ringing guitar notes sound great until they don't. So you'll notice here that with the automation, I actually ramped this down. So we're going to automation. There's my automation curve, and this last note sounds like this. So it's still there, you can still hear it, but it just slowly ramps off so that we don't get that problem in the end. Yeah, gives that trippy stoner rock sound. Yeah. Going to throw that on the track I'm working on this morning. Yeah, do it. Again, it just seems to work really well, especially for rock songs like this. If you want that old school 90s tone, we loved ourselves some delay, and stereo ping-pong delay has been what's been missing in my life in GarageBand, because I haven't found a good stereo ping-pong delay plugin. This one does it beautifully, and it's super simple to use. As you would have seen in there, we just jump into the DLO1, we link it up there, ping pong on, feedback, dry wet, just play around with those until they're right, and then you get it done. While we're talking delay, this is where I'm not completely sold. Folks said I should do something different with this part of the vocals last time, and I did. And I don't know whether we continue with this, because I went a bit nuts with the DLO1, and I tried to put it here on a quarter note on this particular one, and again used the ping pong. So this is these bits that do this.
Watch out! It's coming for you. Ready or not?
So I don't know. I'm not convinced, because in the mix it sounds like this.
Watch out! It's coming for you. Ready or not? Full bore. When you feel you're not.
So yeah, I'm not. So if anything's going to change, it's maybe that just comes back into the regular vocal, or even to Just move that around. How about we don't do that? Or even like slightly different effects on there. But I think someone said a flange or something. I don't know. Maybe it's too late to start experimenting that much. But let me know. Let me know. Hello, MM. Good to have you here. Desolate coffee. Yeah, it's nearly coffee time, isn't it? Jack says, I feel bad that 90s is old school now. I know. How ridiculous is it when you think about all these bands that are having these 25th anniversary tours and 25th anniversary editions of their albums? And I'm like, didn't I buy that at the record store like a couple of years ago? And then I realized that record stores don't exist anymore and I'm an old man. Go figure. Yeah, maybe just delay the last syllable. Maybe I do use that 90s delay on the very last word trick. And create a second track there with the delay. Good one, maybe. And yeah, maybe a little more distortion. So I do have a little distortion on there, but maybe I up the distortion or add distortion instead of drive. Because I've got the distortion, I've got it down at a lower tone, but maybe, what if we just add a little bit more output on this distortion? Let's just play with this.
Watch out!
Maybe a little more drive.
It's coming for you. Ready or not.
Yeah, maybe I just need a little more on that overdrive, just to make it cut through a bit more. Let's take a listen to that.
Watch out! It's coming for you. Ready or not.
Yeah, I reckon a bit more distortion there. As you can see, I'm right up there on this one. I'm not following my own rules by trying to keep things level. I'm going to have to come down here when I export and use, I think I might have already done it. Yeah, I've already dropped down my master volume here because I just get carried away and send it up too much. So before I export, I'll probably use my master track hack of putting this down probably even to -10, just so that when GarageBand does its auto normalization goodness, that it's not too impactful on the actual mix and that I have a little bit of headroom, or at least can create some headroom for mastering, which I'll talk about in a minute because I'm thinking of doing something different with mastering that I've never done before. We'll find out. We'll have a chat about that. Yeah, it sounds a bit Alice Cooper, doesn't it? Hello, Capsalam. Good to see you here. Thanks for being here on board. More double bass. Yeah, just like put the double kicks throughout the whole thing. Right, let's talk drums, because we've talked about everything else. We probably won't have time to talk. We won't have time to talk about all of these synth instruments. Basically, at the end, they became secondary players. They're sitting underneath. I did want to bring them out a little bit because I love this little lead part that does this. It's still there, but it's just doing this. So it's one of those things that you don't really hear until you do, and it just sits underneath. So there you go. Drums. Let's talk drums. Now, I have a video. Mr. Gary Hubbs, who's working and probably got one ear on this at the moment, he gave me some tips. So a couple of tips, and I've got videos coming about the first tip, and then I'm going to do a video about the second tip in the next day or so. The first thing he said to me was, Pete, at the end here, originally I had these as kick and crash cymbals, and they were going and he's like, you need to choke that, son. You need to choke that cymbal. And not only that, he actually sent me his trademarked Choke Me. I think, does it actually have it on here? Yeah, it's the Gary Hubbs Choke Me registered trademark. He's a character, Gary. Choke cymbal. And he's actually also said that he's going to let me share it with folks as well. So I'm going to upload that, put that on my Dropbox, and then folks can actually download this and follow along. So a tutorial coming how to do that in the next day. But here's the crux of it, is that I basically replaced the crash with these chokes. So let's listen to these drums here at the end, and this is what they're sounding like now, which I think sounds pretty darn cool. Goes like this. Sounds a bit weird by itself, yeah, but when you bring it back into the mix, it really works with what's going on there at the end.
Go! Go right now! 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 Now!
So it really creates that call and response that I wanted to go with between the drums and the guitars. So you get that which, yeah, and it was perfect for it. So a big shout out to Gary for sharing that tip. And yeah, like I said, it worked a treat. Videos coming out about it. In fact, I might sneak a secret link into the description of this video afterwards for a preview. So anyone that's watching this live and that hears this, I will hide a link to the video in the description. I'll just put like Gary Rocks and it, and only you and I will know why it's there. And you can get an early sneak peek at Gary's video. Well, my video on Gary's method. I don't have the download ready yet though, so it might not get that yet. But yeah, righty dokey. Desolate says, yeah, sneak it. I want to see. And Gary's choking up here. Yes. Choking. Oh dear. All right, let's continue on. John says, I'm an old man too. I remember the 70s. I was born in the 70s, but only just. 79 represent. I can say I'm a child of the 70s because I was born in 79. The other thing that I was struggling with, so and I actually said, so not only is Gary so cool that he gave me that tip, I said to Gary, how do you get your kick drums and your snares cutting through your mix so well? And he said, here's my secret sauce. And he provided it to me. And I'm going to share it with you now. And I'm going to put it in another video as well because it's too cool not to share. And Gary's cool, so he's allowing me to share this stuff so that everyone's kicks and snares can sound cool too. So what he showed me, he sent me a nice little screenshot video, is that the kicks that I was struggling with, if we come in here to plugins and EQ, the compression I thought was okay. I wasn't using much compression on there on the kick drums anyway, but it's all about the EQ. Look at this custom Gary Hubs EQ curve. So we're pushing up the bass. That's no surprise. It's a kick drum, but to get that click, we've got a what is it called? Not a cut, the opposite. We've got a boost is what I'm trying to say. A nice healthy 10 dB boost right here around that sort of 3K frequency range. And then we've also got some air up here. So around 7K, we're bringing it up there about 5 dB. So you get this sort of roller coaster EQ curve. And if we play this, so let's turn off the EQ. Here's the kicks without that EQ curve. Thud, 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 thud. Here's they are with that EQ curve. Thud and click, right? Yeah. Off. Dead, dull, boring. On. Thud, click, right? Yeah, so I was pretty impressed with that. That's such a simple move. And I mean, I thought this stuff before. I have played around with that. But I think I was going too easy. I was going, oh, we'll just give it a 1 dB or a 2 dB boost in that. And it's like, no. If you're going to go hard or go home. When it comes to hard rock, go hard or go home. So that was the kick drum. The snare, he shared some other tips here, and these ones are even cooler. So yeah, you can all be like Gary Hubs now. So yes, we've got the EQ, and look, I already had a similar EQ curve to this. I'd already tried to boost the top end, but rolling off a bit of the bottom end is good too, because that way it's not competing. You're not getting those sort of muddy frequencies coming through. So that's the EQ curve on that one. And this is the secret sauce, the Distortion plugin. Distortion, just a reasonable amount of drive, 6 dB of drive there at around about that 3K mark, and then dropping the output down. This is what Gary did. I just followed his directions so that it's not overpowering, but it's just there in the mix. So again, let's do this on-off thing. So we'll take, this is a snare without those moves. Sounds like this. Okay. It's hitting, but it sounds kind of like marching band snare, yeah? Let's give it that EQ. Brighter, cutting through the mix, yeah? Got that treble boost, much brighter snare. Now let's listen with the distortion. Yeah! There's that crack, right? Again, wimpy snare, maybe some pop rock snare, hard rock snare. Bring it back in.
All you gotta do is open up your mind.
So yeah, I was pretty impressed and pretty happy when I did these two things. I was so excited I sent it to Jade last night. I'm like, Jade, the drums sound good now. Because she put in a lot of effort creating those drums, and I wasn't happy with that kick and snare, and I couldn't get it to sound right. And yeah, that did the trick. And again, free plugins. Didn't even use the LRC5. I just used the standard Visual EQ. A few little tweaks there on the snare and on the kick drum. And again, this is the benefit of having these split out. Couldn't do this. If I was just using the original drums all grouped together there, you couldn't do this. But if you split them out to your kick and your snare track, You can 100% do that. So, yeah, like I said, pretty impressed with that, and big shout out to Gary. This really was a team effort. Go Team Studio Live today, because Jade came up with the cool bass riff that I really like and obviously played all the drums. Gary's helped me make the drums sound good. And yeah, all I did was play some guitars and sung it. And even the vocals, a lot of people helped me in that vocal writing session here. So, yeah, everyone here gets a... Do I need to put, like, a couple of 100 names on the writing credits when I release this in DistroKid? Maybe. Alrighty, where are we? Yeah, okay, we've got 10 minutes left. Not even. I'll give Jay. Jade, are you doing a show today? Let me know, and I'll give it a quick promote before we finish up here. But I'll have a quick drink, and then let you know where to from here. So, I have decided. Well, I am considering. I haven't quite decided yet. I'm thinking what I'll do is actually use eMastered. I've heard good things lately about eMastered, which is similar to Lander. It's one of these online mastering platforms, and I thought I would give it a crack and see if that's going to work with this song. So I'm going to try eMastered and see what I think. And yeah, maybe I'll even do a quick master just here in GarageBand, but then also use eMastered and do a bit of a comparison thing. So yeah, maybe. Yeah, so that's sort of where we are from here. So what I'm going to do now, as I said, if you listen to this, go back to the start of the video if you're just catching me now. I played the whole song. So if you want to provide some critique, please do that. Drop some comments on the replay of the video. If you're watching, you won't have long, because I'm literally spending the next sort of 5 hours listening and referencing this song till I get the final mix exactly where I want it. I think it's close, but I want it where I want it. And then I'll move into the mastering phase. So I'll probably, like I say, because of time and because I've never tried it before, I'll probably upload to eMastered and see what some automated mastering can do. I think because this final mix is pretty close, I think just using a service like that might actually work. And I've been keen to try it out, and people have been asking me about it. So it might be a 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing with that one. But there we are. A culmination of 28 days of work has got us to this. It's a pretty cool feeling. And for those that have already finished your Songtember songs, or if you haven't quite finished, or you know what, if you're not going to finish, that's also cool. We need to reiterate that this isn't about putting undue pressure on everyone to do things that are not feasible or sustainable or are going to impact your mental health, but it's just about saying, hey, guess what? If you started a song even, you are further along than if you haven't started. So that's the thing. If you aim up here, I always say this, if you aim high, aim for the sky, and you know what? If you get halfway up there, that's pretty darn good. If you want to fly to the moon, but you only end up orbiting Earth a couple of times, well, that's still pretty darn good. So don't underestimate the power of just getting started and doing something, and then you'll do better the next time. Again, I say this a lot, but no one that I've ever come across has ever said, oh, I did this thing, and then I kept doing it, but I just kept getting worse the more I did it. Doesn't work that way. Just keep doing it. Do more, and you'll get better. Rightioki. Hello. I've got some folks coming in very late. Hello. Sorry, you might have to go back to the start. Hello, we are Roses. Good to have you here. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. I think it's come together nicely, and hopefully the little videos we've done along the way have given you some tips and helped you in some of your creating as well. Righty dokie. Jade is looking at beat time. You can use it to download YouTube videos to alter speed, pitch, and even live sample into other apps in 10 minutes. Very cool. So yeah, go over and check that one out. I'll be doing the same. I'm going to head out for a walk because it's actually really nice weather here at the moment before it starts raining again. So I'm going to go out for a walk. I'll have my headphones in. I'll be listening into Jade's show. There's a link down in the comments right now, or just search Jade Star and catch her show live, because she is, as you've probably seen by this video, a very wonderful supporter of this channel, because she did all the drums on this song, and I, for one, would not be here done this with this song now if I was doing the drums. Or I would, but they would have some pretty crappy, ordinary, just Anders drummer drums in there right now, as opposed to the cool custom drums that Jade has done there. Righty dokie, folks, that is going to do it for this one. I hope you got some value out of this. Thank you for all your feedback and opinions and thoughts. Remember, if you've got more of them, drop them down into the comments down below. I will be back, as I said, we'll be sharing that Gary Hubs video. I will sneak a link if you want to catch it early into the description of this video if you can find it. There you go, get down there, and then that'll be being released in the next day, and then I'll do an additional video about the mastering process once I get to that phase, so watch out for those ones. Song Timbre is nearly done. So exciting times ahead. There is a new beginning. Just got to open up your mind. Thanks, folks. I'll see you next time.